As you can see from looking at this photo, the trio of paintings at the top tie together much better than the trio at the bottom. When I initially made these paintings, they were from a pour, and I was very happy with the results overall as far as the pour went, but I didn't like the way that the paintings went together. The color scheme was off, and each painting of the three did not tie together very nicely. So I have decided to rework that entire color scheme between the three paintings, and I need to be able to do that without changing the actual pour because I really like the way that looks. So stay tuned and watch my video and see how I accomplish that. Okay, so here I am again with my Seaside Triptych that I did some time ago. There is a third piece that goes off on the right here that I'm not showing at this time. You can see the original making of this in a different video. Now the problem with this one is I didn't like the way that it flowed together. If you watch my other video, you'll see that this was created with 3 pours. And I mixed up various batches of paint and I did a pour, and I wanted it to be different than just any pour. I wanted it to actually look like something that I was thinking about. People ask artists all the time, where do you get your inspiration? I get my inspiration in various places. These were created out of my memory of growing up along the Oregon coast, which was absolutely gorgeous. The Oregon coast has a lot of cliffs along the seashore, and I'm showing a photo of that right now. And I used to sit up on the top of those cliffs and look out over the ocean, and if I looked straight down, I could see the waves crashing in far below. And I spent a lot of hours hanging out over those cliffs watching the ocean. So I wanted to create that in a painting, and I had the idea that I could do a pour that would go across these 3 pieces, and I built up the land masses that you are looking down at out of various textures and things. And it worked okay, but the problem is it was a lot of real estate to be working on. And I ended up with 3 pieces that were each individually pretty, but they don't flow together really well. The colors don't go together from one to the other. Now, another video that I did was my Seascape Poppy trio, and you can watch that one as well. That video, when I did that painting series, that video covers the topic of tying the 3 together. And when I did that series, I had the benefit of having learned from this one. So I have been thinking about what to do with this. I left it up on the wall for some time. I finally just took it down and put up my Kansas tornado painting, and that's another video you can watch. That was a lot of fun, layering glazes, and I got a lot of wild movement in the sky and things with that painting. Okay, so now I'm ready to start, and I have here phthalo green, phthalo blue, Prussian blue, Payne's gray, and white. And that's not real important for you because the point of this is just to show you how you can save a painting. But those are colors that I often use when I'm working with water. And I have a couple of palette knives. I'm not sure if I'll end up using them or not. I'm going to start out with a brush. So again, it's just a matter at this point of deciding which color combinations and kind of playing around a little bit, because I can tell looking at this that this has phthalo green in it. Phthalo green and phthalo blue are similar, but phthalo blue is more to the blue, phthalo green, of course, is more to the green. I really don't like this. This is this weird lime color that's just suddenly there. And you can see that when you're looking at the ocean, sometimes variations like that, but that just stands out a little too much, and I don't like it. But I do like the way the pork turned out. There's a lot of texture here if you feel it, and I like this kind of foamy look. That is the way that I remember the ocean looking. So the overall effect I was very happy with. I just need to play around a bit with the color. This one here I like so well that it's too large for me to scan, but I can photograph it. And I'm planning on doing that because another thing that I'm doing now is I bought my own sublimation heat press and sublimation printer, and I have really nice software already, graphic art software, and I'm printing up my own mugs. And you'll see that in another video. I'll show that whole setup, but that is really a lot of fun, and it's a great way for artists to earn a living off of what they do. And I am offering that service also to other artists that I know. And they're coming out really beautiful, but you do have to have a really good system to do that. Okay, so here I'm just mixing up some green with some white, and I know that's probably a little too much just in looking at this, so I have to kind of decide what color would maybe tie in with that. So I'll just throw in a little bit of the phthalo blue. That tones it down a little bit, and I can kind of just throw some out here so you can see that that has the green in it still, and that's okay. But then that kind of tells me what to whatever I throw out here, I'm going to have to bring over onto this side. You just have to kind of make sure it flows from one to the next. And this is going to be different because this was done with a pour, and now I'm coming back and kind of painting over it. So it's a little different than anything I've done. Now this Payne's Gray is very dark. That's kind of getting more into the color. That this Prussian blue is very, very pretty. I love Prussian blue. It's a very deep tone. This is the Prussian blue here. And if I feel like that's not quite right, I can certainly come back with my fingers and sort of smudge it out. That takes off that edge a little bit and just kind of softens it up a bit. And I can toss in just a tiny bit of white, because there is white in this area. Yeah, I'm already liking this better. So without changing the entire look of it, because I really like the look of the painting, I just need to make sure that one flows to the next. So I can just kind of keep playing around like this now. And I will use different sized brushes. So my purpose wasn't to show you all of this painting. I just wanted to show you a little bit here and there. And so I'm going to kind of play around like this, just like I'm doing. And you know, you won't ever be able to maybe match the color exactly. Like if I wanted this exact tone to go over here, I might not be able to get that. I can get pretty close if I put it on my plate here first. Then I know that's kind of getting in there close, but you can see that it's a little off. So then I can darken it up a little or whatever I want to do. That brings in a little bit more Payne's Gray. That's darkening it up too much. But I can kind of get an idea of what would be close, and then I can come over here and put that in. And even if I don't get it exact, I might be changing it some here, but then I'll put it in over here. So I think though I need a little bit bigger brush. So my point is, if you get a color that you feel is exact match, then great, then go ahead and put it on in another area. Like if this was absolutely a perfect match as to what's over here, which it isn't, but say it was, then yeah, I could come back over here and put in that same exact thing. But if not, I'll just tie in some over here. And that way I have the color over here, so that when I come back over here, it ties in. Okay, so now you can see that I'm bringing this color over into this painting, and I'm starting to cover up the lime green that was really bothering me. I can tell already that this is going to be several coats. It's not going to be a real quick fix, that's for sure. I'm using my small brush and my large brush, and I'm pretty much just smearing it back and forth like this, but if you come up close it looks like that, and that on top of a pour doesn't work real well. But I'm getting my base coat down, and I'm liking the overall flow of it. This looks like a swash of water that's kind of coming up this way. This now flows over into this side. There's definitely a lot of this color over here, which I really like. And I will continue doing what I'm doing now, and then when I get my base coat down to where I feel like all of the colors are balanced, then I'll have to go back and add my upper coats to kind of tie everything in, because I don't want it to look like you just came up over the pour and then smeared things around. That isn't going to really tie in very well. A pour has a definite look to it. So I'm trying to stay out of these areas and leave them as they are, and I think that will be okay. If I just kind of come in close, sometimes I'll use a smaller brush, and as I start putting in my upper coats, it starts giving a lot of depth to it, and it takes away from the look of just having thin coats going down over the top. I think whatever I used in the pour, I should go back and watch my own video, whatever I used in the pour did give a little bit of a glossy finish. And but I think it'll all work out fine. I just need to use several coats. So I'll come back now and then and show you how it's coming along. I decided to bring the camera in closer so you can see more what I'm talking about. I've brought the blue across, and I really like that. If I come up close though, you can see where that is obviously just some paint smeared on there. So that needs more work, but several more coats will take care of that. And the same down here. This is a pretty kind of a greenish color in here. That's a lot of phthalo green, and I will pull that over into this side. I really just need to make sure that it flows from one to the next. So here I'm zooming in again, and you can see how a few more layers helped quite a bit. This now flows really nicely from one painting onto the other. And I've come in through here and added a few more layers. Kind of feathered out some of the edges. This is a little bit of hard edges in here still that I'll work on just a bit. But this sort of fades in nicely along here. And I've done quite a bit up here at the top as well. I really like how that looks. That looks like it's deep in there, and then it just kind of fades out into this area. So what I'm looking for in this part is I want this all to just blend very nicely. And there's still a little bit of green up in here, but I think maybe that's okay. That doesn't really bother me too much. Okay, before I get started on this one, I wanted to show it to you. And this isn't perfect lighting here for filming, but you can see that the color is way off. This color here ties in more with what was in the other painting, and there are some green hues to this. There isn't really any of that over here as far as the green hue, and this went into a completely different type of blue. It's more of kind of a cobalt blue, which is nowhere else in the painting. So I'm going to be toning this down. I like all of this area, and some of this area ties in with what's over here. But I think if I bring in just a tiny bit of the green, definitely some of the phthalo green, and this Prussian blue. That Prussian blue is really, really nice. Okay, so now I can see that it is much, much better. The one on the right there is the one that will end up on the far right. And it ties in much nicer now with the one in the center. I've toned down that cobalt by quite a bit, and I brought in some phthalo green and some phthalo blue and white. And now I'm at a point where I really need to let it dry. So I have to be patient and let it dry overnight. I'll check it in the morning, and then I'll see what else I need to do. I think there is still a little bit of cobalt blue type color. I don't know what color I actually used, but a little bit too much of that on the right side for my taste. So I'll tone down a few more areas, and then I may go back and add a little bit of white caps here and there along the very edge of the land masses. And I think that's about all it will need. This is a closer view of what I've done. And I think that with all of the layers that I have on there, it's looking much more like there's a lot of depth to the ocean. This is a little bit different in here. When I have them up next to each other, I'll try to prop them up a little bit better so that this comes right into here. This has sat overnight and dried now, and I'm really overall happy with it. There are a few things that I would like to change. This area here has a lot of white compared to the surrounding area, and this still has a little bit of that cobalt blue showing through, a little more than what I would be happy with. So I'm going to go through now, and just like I did here, I'll highlight some little areas down through here just to kind of make this not look like it's just framed in dark with a lot of light right in the center. I don't really like that composition. So I'm staying with phthalo green, phthalo blue, Prussian blue, and titanium white, and I'm finding that I really don't need any other colors. There are so many layers of paint on here already that I can add depth by just adding those colors, and the other colors will still show. And I'm staying with a smaller flat brush because I'm just coming through now and adding a little bit of, not highlight, but I guess you'd call it more of a low light. Bringing in a little bit of darkness here to tie in with up here, just to kind of break up all that real light area. Okay, now I'm using my favorite little frazzly brush that I feature in a lot of my videos. It's a brush that used to be an outliner that got very frazzled on the end, and it's perfect for doing this sort of thing, just coming in and touching up. I just barely touch it to the canvas, and that adds a little bit of seafoam to the area, and it just kind of breaks up this landmass area and kind of gives an interesting effect around. Helps the eye know that that's a little bit of sea crashing there. And I tied in this side to this side, and this was kind of a lot of blue in here, so I broke that up by adding just a tiny bit of white across there. I just used this brush, went across, touched that up a little bit. So I'm happy now with this one that's on the left, which is the center painting. I don't think I'll mess with that one anymore. The one on the right still needs a little bit more work. I feel like it's just a little bit busy. There's a little too much going on in here, so I'm going to work on that a little bit. Okay, so I had to just get brave and come through and put a light coat of green across here and down through some of this area. And it's a little bit too green right now, but that muted that area. So I'll let that completely dry, and then I will come back and put a light coat of maybe a little bit of grayed down blue. And by grayed down, I mean I might add a little bit of Payne's gray, but I'll see. Okay, now I'm considering it finished. But like I do with all of my paintings, I will wait and let it totally dry in case there's any place that still needs just a little bit more touch-up. But I'm really quite happy with it, so I'm bringing the camera in closer. So you can still see all the beautiful little cells that were there from the original pour. I didn't lose that, and yet I went in and smoothed out areas and evened up the colors. And by adding just a little bit more of a little seafoam look around the rocks, I think that helped as well. And this no longer looks like I just smeared paint in there. It actually looks like water flowing. And the area down in this part of the painting has been toned down quite a bit. There's still some of that blue showing, but there's enough other colors that I think overall it looks really nice. So now you can see all three together, and the colors flow nicely from one to the other. So I am really happy that I kept it and didn't just toss it. I think it's really pretty now.